Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Transport and Health Integrated Research Network seminar this morning on cycling in the workplace. This is in partnership with the West Wales Healthy Travel Charter Steering Group, which Think is supporting to coordinate their meetings and to facilitate working alongside some of the Think network in order to inform what the Healthy Travel Charter commitments could be going forward. And to do that, I'm working in partnership with Rhiann Rees, who is here today from Hywel, and her colleague Alex, who are going to be giving us a presentation to kick off this morning about what they're doing at their health board. Then we're going to hear from Steve and Charlie at Sustrans, who are going to tell us what some of the other health boards around Wales are working on. And finally, I'm going to show a video from Cycling UK because Mo couldn't join us today. But he's going to be talking through how you can get cycling in the workplace accreditation. And luckily, we have Gwenda here today from Cycling UK who can address some of those questions. We want to leave a really good bit of time towards the end to have a really open discussion about how we can get some more cycling in the workplace, especially with the situation in rural areas where you don't have such a network as you do in urban areas that's already set up for your staff to get in and out of the workplace. So they've got a solid half an hour we put by for that. But if you do have any questions after each presentation, do put your questions in the chat, raise your hand with the emoji from Teams, or just take yourself off mute and ask a question. I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for people. Do bear in mind we are being recorded though. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Rhiann. Thank you, Rhiann.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to invite Alex to take you through some of the work that the team have done in the transport department in the health board. And Alex, if you like, I've got the website and the document that about the cycling open on my computer, and I could share them on the screen if that makes it easier for you. But if you wanted to share them so you've got more control, that's fine as well.
Yeah, I've got everything up. So yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll share my screen. I've just got everything loaded now. Won't be a second. So yeah, I'm Alex. I'm the transport coordinator for the health board. It's usually my manager Jason James who would attend meetings like this, but he's away today. And yes, Jason's been with us nearly a year now, and since he joined the team, he's focused a lot on cycling. So we've done a lot in the year that he's been with us, and yeah, so we've. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Great. So this is our transport website. So we cover the whole health board. That's Ceredigion, Pembrokeshire and Carmarthenshire. So we have lots of little initiatives and things like that. So this is our sort of main sort of site. I'm just on the cycle section here. So this is a work in progress, but it has developed quite significantly over the year. So this is just the cycle page. This is the document which I'll show you shortly. This is just to show everyone in the health board who works for the health board what facilities we have. That's based on the site, so I'll go through that in detail now. And just a bit more information. So we've recently learned that you can actually claim 20p per mile for doing business journeys. Now, we're quite a rural area here, so a lot of the journeys probably do require a car, but we want people to know that if they do want to take if they do want to cycle instead of taking a car, they can, and they can apply on the expenses and they can make a claim. I'll go back into the brochure now, but we in the brochure it shows about the shower facilities. So if people do are able to travel on a bike, we have highlighted where they can have a shower before their meetings. Also, the cycle to work scheme, this is available a couple of times a year, I believe. So we just promote this. So we send out globals about our cycling initiatives. So all the information's on here. There's a video on here for them as well. And we also work closely with the Health Board's benefits team, and they can provide more information. So we can link up with that department as well for more information. And Bike Week 100, that took place earlier this month, so we added that onto our page as well, and we did some correspondence on our global communications for that as well, so people could learn more about that. It's all part of our plan to be like a healthy cycle health board, basically. So just mainly on our document. So when Jason came into the team, he wanted all our staff to know what's available. Has my screen changed to the new document, Rhian?
Yes, it has.
Great. So this is quite a lengthy document, so I won't go through all of it, but it's this basically covers the entire health board. So this is available on our site, and we advertise it quite often, so people know what's available. So in this, as I said, we cover all our sites. So it's just done in alphabetical order. So we've included the 4 main acute sites like Bronglais, Glangwili, Prince Philip, and Withybush. And we've also included the smaller sites because they also have facilities. So Aberaeron, Amman Valley, Cardigan, etc. We got a few smaller ones, Glean House. So each one, it just highlights what's available. So I'll just go down to Aberaeron, for example. This is one of our smaller sites. So there's not a great deal here, but anyone there or traveling there can find out what's there. So they got a little bike storage, which is quite sufficient for the size of the site. We've also included cycle routes as well, so people know the safe areas to go cycling and just to be aware of what's available. So we've included this on every site as well where applicable. And then we got on-site facilities then. You can see this Aberaeron, there's showers there, and there's lockers and changing rooms. So yeah, pretty much we've just done that for all the sites. So I'll just scroll through quickly to go to one of our bigger sites, which is Bronglais. So this is probably where we got the best coverage. This is based in Aberystwyth, which is a city. So we've got a lot of people who use cycling facilities in this hospital, and as you can see, it's quite a big hospital. So these are just detailed. Anyone who works there will know where these locations are. We've also included the cycle routes in Aberystwyth as well, so that's quite handy for them. And yeah, currently what this document has also shown us is what we haven't got. So for example, this Bronglais one now, we're very keen to get showers and changing rooms, that kind of thing. So when we've got the funding, we know, so Bronglais will be top of that list. We have looked at it before, but as you can imagine, there's just always obstacles, financial, space, that kind of thing. So eventually we will have good facilities on that. So yeah, pretty much the document, it just goes through everything, detailing what we got, what we haven't got. Some of the newer sites like this one here, Cardigan, with some really good shower facilities, things like that. And yeah, so literally I had a phone call the other day, and someone that was new to the health board, they were at our Prince Philip and they wanted to know if there was any shower facilities. So I was able to quickly send them this, and they could scroll down and they were able to see on Prince Philip, there we are, there's quite a lot of facilities. So it's a really handy document, and we will update this as we go along. Some things which I haven't mentioned, which aren't on here, we have looked at other things in order. One thing Jason is keen for us to do, put on sites, is, I don't know what the correct term for them is, but sort of like maintenance poles. You see them around council areas sometimes. It's just a little pole in a street where it's got the basic sort of cycle repair kits, that kind of things, and sort of mini tools, spanners, that kind of thing. So we are going in the right direction. but yeah, that's pretty much that's what we've got so far.
It's really impressive. Thank you, Alex, for presenting on that. That's great. I was going to say, so what I've done is I've taken the Healthy Travel Charter. Excuse me, I don't know if you can hear the dog. That's the dog in the background, a bit bananas. I was going to share our draft Healthy Travel Charter for the West Wales region, and the kind of commitments that we're able to tick off as a result of the work of Jason and the team there in the Health Board. And actually, going through it makes you think about the opportunity for more ticks, because the fact that the cycle scheme is up to £3,000 means that that would enable you to purchase an electric bike as well as a push bike. So that's pretty good. Okay, so here's our draft travel charter for the West Wales region. This is still under negotiation. So we've got the travel expenses for the bikes sorted in there. We don't have a flow chart yet, but I put a tick in there because of the travel expenses for the bikes. It's a bit cheeky. There we are, and yeah, there's a little cheeky tick in there as well in terms of the most sustainable forms of transport and having remuneration for that. Offer the cycle to work scheme to all staff, and we need to add a sentence in there about it being sufficient for e-bikes. That's an optional commitment just there. And then assess and provide as appropriate secure cycle storage and showers at all main sites. So, obviously with the older buildings, it's more challenging to get the showers and the lockers there, but there is a commitment from the team to look at that as we're able, as Alex was saying. So that's how that relates back to the travel charter.
Great, thanks, Rhiannon and Alex. Does anybody on the call have a question? You can put it in the chat or raise a hand. Whilst we're waiting to see if anybody does, I do have a quick question myself. I know this is focusing on cycling in the workplace, which is for staff, but in any of those instances on sites, are the public able to access those facilities as well? I don't know if either of you know. In fact, you might not. In fact, Jason.
Yeah, I would suppose the cycle shelters definitely. We do. I don't know if you remember, we got some little boxes. Obviously, they're private to staff. They lease them out, so they wouldn't be able to go into those. Also, the big dormy ones with a door, they require a pin for access, so they wouldn't be able to access them. They have to come straight to us. But any of the open planned ones, or the just the metal bars, anyone can access them. It's just the more secure ones are predominant. Well, they are for staff. So anything else anyone can access, they'd be absolutely fine, no problem.
So they might be accessible to people, but do you promote it on the general how to get to this site kind of guidance? Because often it's like, this is where you can park. Sometimes it says this is how you can get the bus, but actually, is it possible for the public to see? Because a lot of times cycling infrastructure is hidden around the back somewhere, unlit.
Yes, I don't believe it is accessible advertised at the moment, but I know it is something Jason is very keen to. So I believe he has spoken to departments like medical records, so when they are sending out the outpatients appointments, they can be made aware. Obviously, the majority of people coming in for appointments probably you don't get great demand, people coming in for on their way to their operation or anything, but Jason is keen to make everyone aware of it. So yeah, he's spoken to various departments, so it is on the agenda. Yeah,
perfect. Okay, Ant, did you have a question?
I did, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Ant Hobbs. I work for the Department for Transport as an engagement lead for Wales, based in Swansea, where the sun is blazing in through.
Yeah,
you can see me. First time we've seen it in weeks, and so don't know what to. I've got nothing to cover the windows up with because I'm not used to having to deal with the sun. Sorry, so my question, thanks Alex and Rhiannon for that interesting presentation, is just whether you had any information or kind of data or anecdotal or otherwise about whether the information that you've provided and the services that you provided for your staff have led to or are leading to any kind of increase in the usage of those facilities. Just whether you get a sense for whether people are using them more, and then a kind of follow-up, I suppose, is do you know what the barriers are for people not using them? Is it the lack of information, or is it the lack of kind of active travel routes for people to use, and so on?
To be honest, this has been live now for about a month or two. So I think 2 people have inquired about it. So there's not I can't really say the effect of it at this point. What I do want to do is to speak to our IT department or someone in the intranet team to see if there's a way of us finding how many times this has been downloaded or viewed. I'm sure they'll be able to tell us that, but without any sort of stats behind it, I couldn't say for definite. What I have noticed is there is a lot more bikes on site. We've got the big compound outside there, and to access that they need to complete a form, and we give them the combination. So that has increased quite a lot. That's always been quite popular. I mean, what you find is a lot of sort of student medical doctors have always used that. You know, they've moved down here for a temporary, and they just haven't got access to a car. So that's always been fairly popular. But when I walk around the site, I mean, I'm based in the Carmarthen. I've noticed there's a lot. There's actually quite a lot of bikes around the place, and we get a lot of inquiries about the private, the little cabins I showed you earlier. We get quite a lot of inquiries for that. But no, you are right. We do need to have a look into trying to find some robust data so we can prove. But I think it definitely is a good thing to have.
If I can jump in there as well, we're just starting with the Healthy Travel Charter comms now. So we've got comms on board to start. It's going to be launching in the week of Sustainable Climate Week, beginning the 4th of December. So there'll be some comms going out to staff and things regarding the different facilities available and promoting the site that Alex has shown you with all the different options on there. So, although there have been comms already going out from the team, there'll be a kind of a concentrated focus on sustainable travel over the next months then.
That's great, thanks both. It might be worth perhaps, because I know Hywel Dda have done a brilliant travel survey with their team that I'm sure they'd be happy to share if anyone hasn't seen that. But it might be worth perhaps just doing a really quick snapshot before that comms goes out in December, where somebody from each of the sites can just note, maybe like probably would be best to do it over the week, so like next week, just note down how many bikes are used in each thing over each day. So because one day won't be a particularly useful snapshot, especially if one day's pouring with rain, but just so you've got something that gives you a bit of a baseline before you do a really big push, it might be quite helpful in terms of seeing what the impact of that has been, if there's any capacity. Just a slight recommendation. I know there's a question burgeoning from Gwenda. Do you want to jump in, Gwenda?
Yeah, sorry. They're called cycle repair stations, I think, those things. So there's no fancy name. I've changed. So I live in Cardiff, so cycle theft is a big issue. But I'm just, as I've been thinking about it, it's like it may not be such an issue on your sites. But I was thinking about as a visitor, it would be really useful for me to access secure. So I wonder whether that's something that you would think about, or whether you don't think it's an issue so much in your locations. So cycle crime is not a problem, because Cardiff, it's ridiculous, even at the hospital, I think. So I just wondered whether secure bike parking was something you'd ever consider. And also, I just wondered whether you'd thought about pool bikes and folding bikes, given that it's a rural location. A lot of people have to combine sort of like bus and stuff like that. So folding bikes can be, because you can't take an ordinary bike, but a Brompton I think you can get a Brompton on a bus. I'm not sure, but I think you can. So yeah, so just some things to think about, I think, Milton. I think it's great what you're doing. I think it's really good. It's excellent stuff.
Yeah, in response for that, Jason has looked into the pool bikes. We run a pool car scheme at the moment, which is gradually getting a bit more CO2 friendly. We've ordered some electric cars, but yeah, it is something definitely we are looking into. He's had a look and spoken to some people about some of the stuff they have in the cities where they can just turn up and put money in and take a bike.
Thinking about it, I think I might have put him in touch with that person now. So yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely on the radar. In terms of crime, in my time here, there was apparently one bike was stolen at some point, and we think maybe the door, the secure compound, may have been left open. Since then, we have now got CCT right on our compound, so we don't anticipate any problems. And yeah, I mean, we live in quite a nice sort of area. I think crime is quite low, luckily, down here. But yeah, it's something I can bring up with Jason, because we could advertise on front desk if people would want to do that. So yeah, I don't see any harm with it. It is very popular now. I noticed the other day it's very full. But yeah, I'm sure that's something we could look into.
Great, thanks, Gwenda. I noticed, Sue, you had your hand up. I think it might have gone now. Don't know if your question's already been answered. If you still want to ask something, please do go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Gwenda covered it.
No.
She preempted me. But I did have something else I wanted to add. If you're a parent and you're cycling and walking to work, you might be conscious that you get a call from the school of your child, and you've got to go pick the child up, and there's issues. And I just wondered if in emergencies the health authority had thought about perhaps providing a taxi service as a backup if somebody needs to get somewhere urgently. You know, they might think, oh, I take my car each day because I might be needed. But if they know they can jump in a taxi, it might take that prospective issue away from them.
Good point.
Yeah, sorry, Rhian.
Well, I was going to, Jason has spoken about that, and I think we've had a few meetings with Swansea as well, and something that both authorities are looking at is the availability of pool cars, and just to reassure staff coming in who do have responsibilities outside of work that there would be a pool car available to them if they needed to make a dash home.
Thanks, Rhian.
Tricky.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. We've got a question in the chat. Following from Ant's point, given the lack of designated cycle route networks in many places, are you offering anything like personal travel planning to help identify safe or safer routes? Alex or Rhian?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't know anything about that, to be honest. Rhian, are you aware of any of that?
I think it's a commitment on the level 2 charter, so it is something that's come up and has been discussed. We don't have the capacity to do that at the moment, but the discussions are around certainly if people are joining the team, because when people are making a big change in their like, if they're joining the Hywel Dda team for the first time, that's a good time to have a conversation about how they're going to travel. So incorporating discussions around travel in the induction, and also looking at whether it could be included in people's supervision or PDR. So there is that opportunity to talk about it and to remind people of the resources that are available on the Health Board transport site. So yeah, that's the way that kind of we're looking at that at the moment.
Thanks. There's also a thing called bike buddies, where you can maybe have some staff that are more experienced and confident on the roads, even if they're usually leisure riders, who can help you identify safe routes and maybe even cycle with some people who aren't sure about what is a safe route to go on. So that is something that is worth looking into. Okay, brilliant. So I think that might be all the questions from now, as far as I can see. Right, so if we can move on now to the team from Sustrans, if you want to present what the other experiences have been of other health boards working on their healthy travel charter in Wales, that'd be great. Thanks, Alex and Rhian, that was really useful.
Thanks, Amy. So yeah, just to introduce myself and my colleague Steve, we both work for Sustrans, and we won't focus specifically on University Health Boards, although that will come into it. But what we can do is give a little bit of our experiences of working on the Healthy Travel Charters in Swansea, Cardiff, the Vale of Glamorgan and Gwent. But yes, we'll try and link it back to the University Health Board as much as we can, but we'll just give a bit of an overview of how we've supported and may be able to field some questions, obviously, about the charters that are ongoing or some of the charters that maybe finished level 1 and have gone on to level 2.
Great, thanks.
So I'll just share my screen. Steve's going to start us off with just a bit of a background on Sustrans, and then I'll go into some of the work and support that we can offer. And then we'll just highlight some of the successes that we've had, but also some of the challenges. And obviously, it's just things for you guys to think about in terms of how much support you want and how much kind of modal shift that you're looking for. So it may be for your personal organisation, or it may be as the charter as a whole. Okay, so can someone just let me know, because I can't see anyone? Is that shared? Yep, good.
Yeah, we got them, John.
Yeah, that's
There we
great.
are.
Thank
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to hand over to Steve, if that's okay.
Yeah, so as I said, so I'm Steve. So my role is as a healthy travel officer for Sustrans. So I'm just going to do a quick brief overview of what Sustrans is, just for those who don't know. So as a charity, we do have a vision of a society where the way we travel creates healthier places and happier lives for everyone. Just want to skip on there, chart. Okay, so some things that we'd like to see, some changes. So radically reduce traffic speed and volume. Obviously, that is something that's been worked on in Wales with the new 20-mile-an-hour integrated speed limits. So it's a creation of sociable spaces where people can easily interact, better connection of people to green and public space, transport and planning policy that puts people first, heritage and places we work in to be valued and enhanced, and cities and towns that are inclusive and safe for all. Skip on, chart. Okay, so livable towns and cities for everyone. So that's something that Sustrans is very keen on. So that one has social connection at its heart, has most of what you need just a short walk away, has roots and celebrates its unique character, is easy for everyone to move around healthily, and has clean air and green space for all to live and play in. So with regards to healthy travel charters now, some of the work being done, I'll pass back to Charlie and he'll be able to go through some of the things that we've done.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So just a bit of background. I started supporting, it's coming up to 2 years ago, I started supporting Cardiff and the Vale of Glamorgan with their charter, which was the original charter set up obviously by Dr. Tom Porter. So we've seen that charter move through from midway through the charter, us supporting, to finalising and finishing the level 1 of the charter. And it's great to see now, whilst on the level 2 there was initially only 1, I think we're up to 5 organisations now that have signed up to the level 2 of the charter. So they're kind of pushing on and challenging themselves in terms of some of the commitments that they're hoping to reach. So in terms of the support that we've been able to offer, bearing in mind each charter has a different amount of organisations, but it can be anything from, well, we've had Cardiff start about 13 or 14 and then end up with 15 or 16. Gwent, I think similar numbers, maybe a few more. Swansea, similar numbers. So there's quite a few organisations that we support. And some of those organisations are huge. So University Health Board, the police force, fire service. And then we also support organisations which are much smaller. So a lot less numbers of staff. So we're spread around, but we try and support where we can. So whether that's working collaboratively with everyone or going in and working individually with the workplaces. So things that we've done things like online webinars, and it's important to stress it's very easy for us all to get caught up in cycling, which always seems to be the buzzword, but we are sustainable transport. So we don't just look at cycling, we look at walking, we look at multimodal transport, and just trying to get people outside of the car as much as possible. We appreciate that's not always easy for everyone, but small steps generally lead to bigger steps in the future. So we do webinars, we've done try and e-bike events. So we've got a fleet of e-bikes that we can take around, we loan out, and we can take them for people to try. It works really well with people's cycle to work schemes, so it's a bit of a try before you buy. It gives people a bit of a flavour of what e-bikes are like. I know for myself personally, I'd never been on an e-bike before I joined Sustrans, you know, and whilst I still don't own one myself, you know, I get to use them and I can see the benefits. And I'm quite lucky. I live in a fairly hilly area, but I'm in Swansea. But also there's quite a lot of flat. You know, I appreciate there are areas around Wales which actually would benefit, certainly from e-bikes, far more, you know, in terms of the topography. We can do personalised travel planning, so we can support with routes. Again, I think we just mentioned in the last conversation, bike buddies, supported rides, and where possible, we do have, myself included, yeah, we are dedicated, a couple of people who qualified as trainers, so we can actually offer formal cycle training to people who need it. The bike loans, again, the bike library that we use, has been incredibly successful in certain areas, not so successful in other areas. But Swansea, there's been a huge uptake with Swansea Council, which Steve will come on to later. And it's glad to say we've still got a current waiting list, which is great for people looking to borrow the bike loans, and especially as I'm sure you've all had, the weather that we had the last few weeks, that to have a waiting list still is no mean feat. We do a lot of collaboration work, so we work with the police and bike register to make sure that we go around to different workplaces, trying to get as many bikes marked up as possible. I know we just discussed and touched upon theft, so it is a big issue. It's a big issue in Swansea, certainly in the bigger cities, Cardiff and yeah, Gwent, probably especially Newport. So yeah, there's a huge push, not just from us, but from the police to get as many bikes marked up as possible. And to date, we've supported 51 organisations across the different charters. And we have, you know, as one thing that we offer as well, as we go along, wherever possible, and obviously with consent, we do try and do as many case studies as we can to highlight the successes of what's been going on in the charter, which we can then share with individual organisations. I know, Amy, you did request, just to let you know, Sustrans has undergone a slight change in terms of the way we share people's details. So as and when we've got relevant paperwork and permissions off people that we've done case studies on, we might be able to share them around this group as well, just to give you a flavour. But as of yet, we haven't been able to get those relevant permissions off the individuals. So something we can look to do in the future. And that's pretty much the way we support. So there's lots of things that we can do or have been doing in terms of the charters. What I'll do is I'll pass you on to Steve, who's now going to highlight some of the successes that we've had, and also I think going to highlight some of the, I wouldn't say pitfalls, but just give a bit of a reality check of Sustrans support for the charter, and obviously there are ways around it. So I'll hand over to Steve.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, yeah, so in terms of successes, so there's been a number of successes. So quite a significant portion of the organisations have achieved level 1 of the charter, and there has been, you know, even, and I may as well mention it now, there are some organisations that haven't achieved it, but they have seen some change within their own organisation. So, and again, for some of the smaller ones, they may not have had the financial backing to be able to, you know, put some of the things in place and make the changes. But then on the individual level for their staff, there has been positive measures taken. So as Charlie's already mentioned, several organisations have signed up to level 2 of the Cardiff and Vale Charter, and in the process of some fund procurement to sign up for level 2 in Gwent. So in Gwent, the actual charter ended on the 17th of November, level 1. There is still the process of that being extended because similarly to the Cardiff charter, they went through COVID. So there was a lot of things that got pushed back on in terms of timescales to put things in place. So it does look like the Gwent one will be extended for 3 to 6 months to allow some of those organisations that haven't quite met level 1 to catch up, but also to allow some fund procurement for some of the bigger organisations, such as the Health Board, to sign up to level 2 of the charter. So Aneurin Bevan, who the Health Board in Gwent have been quite vociferous in what they wanted to achieve. They've been quite forthcoming and been a big help actually with some of the other organisations in leading the way. So they've made some extra funding available for improvement of cycle infrastructure at several of their sites. And some of this funding has come from the decarbonisation element of vehicles. So instead of going out and purchasing new vehicles, they put in place for people to cycle. Obviously, there are benefits of especially around Newport being a city centre location. There are some other challenges then Blaen and Gwent area for some of their sites. That is slightly more rural. Obviously not as rural as some of the sites down in your area, but they have put in place elements there where things like encouraging lift share. So even though we're talking about getting people out of cars, obviously there are areas where it is quite important that, you know, people need to be able to get to work. But then if you're coming from the same area, and I think there's been some not financial benefits, but benefits on if you were using lift share, they put in place that you get a free coffee from the canteen, that kind of stuff on the way in. So very small changes, but I understand it's been quite successful. Similarly to Hywel Dda then, so they have increased their limit for cycle to work to £3,000, and they've now made that payable over an 18-month period, and that has to allow access to e-bikes. And this does remove the barrier of cost for people because, you know, like you said, you know, some of the e-bikes are, well, you can spend whatever you want on them really, but you are looking at £2,000 really to get one. And just something that's, you know, from my place, and I remember Health Board have had 8 bikes purchased through Cycle to Work on the back of bike library loans. So, and this is just something we haven't really been measuring, and it's just that they've come forward and said, you know, we've had people, they've used the Sustrans bike libraries, and then they've come on and said, yes, you know, we can see the benefits of using an e-bike, and they've actually then gone out and used Cycle to Work schemes and purchased their own. If I just go on to the next slide, Richard.
I have pressed it. I'm just waiting.
Yeah, still waiting for it to go through.
Yeah.
Hang on, I've got. I tell you what, I'll just pull the thing up while I can just talk while it's waiting to change. So the next slide is for how to make significant barrier behaviour change. So within, obviously for the Sustrans officers, we're not embedded in any individual employer. So that is very much we can be sometimes quite spread quite thin. So what we would say is that, 2 seconds, sorry, I just skipped on one. I'll go through this one quickly and I'll go back to the next one. So just further successes, just Half Housing in Cardiff are making funding available for purchase of e-cargo bikes for the use of housing maintenance teams. And this has removed several vans from use. So again, so that funding has come from their decarbonisation programme, and it was funds that were allocated to purchase new vans. They're now in the process of using electric cargo bikes. So the benefit they have is their housing stock is within a 2-mile radius of their offices in Cardiff. But, you know, it's been quite successful. They've loaned some of our bikes, and their housing officers have said, you know, they can actually travel through Cardiff much quicker on the e-cargos than they can driving. So there is the benefit there. Cardiff University, another signatory, and they've taken up extended loans of 2 e-cargo bikes from Sustrans. So it's their maintenance and park staff are using them around the Cardiff campuses. So again, so this is removing vehicles from public spaces. So again, this trial has been carried out with a view to purchase a fleet of e-cargos in the next financial year. Charlie's already mentioned Swansea. Swansea's been one of them, a major success in terms of the bike library. For whatever reason, Gwent was a bit slower, whether it's the topography of the area and it's a bit more spread out. Cardiff, there were obviously there was a take up of the bikes on the loan scheme, but Swansea, for whatever reason, they seem to have just hoovered up the bikes. It's been really successful, which is really good to see. Okay, so back onto the behaviour change element. So what we would suggest is having a dedicated local Sustrans officer. So obviously my role is in Gwent, Charlie covers Cardiff, Vale and Swansea, and we can obviously collaboratively work together then. So having a dedicated local Sustrans officer allows them to work with each individual organisation. Something this has worked in Scotland is they've had Sustrans officers actually embedded within NHS health boards. So then they've been that's allowed them to work, you know, dedicated with that health board. Something we're talking about in-house officers. You know, this doesn't need to be Sustrans. This could be an officer role or nominated person to support a Sustrans officer from within the organisations. So whether that's, you know, that's a case of, you know, employing someone or having someone already in place, that then quite regularly would give you move into a more significant behaviour change if you've got someone within the organisation that it's their dedicated role to actually make that change, rather than it being and to be fair, not being negative, but something that has been seen in some of the other organisations is that role has been tagged onto somebody else's role, you know, a role they're already doing, and then they haven't been able to give the dedicated time to actually make the significant change. Something that's come off the back of having, and it was something Charlie did, was working with Natural Resources Wales, quite significant change within them. They actually led on from the Healthy Travel Charters to an in-depth travel survey and sites review on all their sites. So that's something that come off the back of the Healthy Travel Charters. But one thing we'd always encourage is a coordinated approach. So meetings like this, where you have other organisations, I know each of the charters within, you know, the ones that are already existing, have a steering group where all attendees from each organisation will have someone, and they share good practice, really. And, you know, and it's things that's obviously there's not going to be a one size fits all. You know, there's different sizes in organisations, but there are things that you can share experience, and then that can be put into place amongst other organisations. One thing you would say is without having a dedicated officer for each individual organisation, there is a limited impact for large scale behaviour change. And you know, we were quite keen to put that in, you know, just to say that, I suppose, even from my point of view, and even from Charlie's, it's human nature that you tend to work with the organisations that are more engaging. And that's been an experience that some organisations are far more engaged than others. So, and it turns out they then tends to be the one that you can actually, you know, make significant change within. If you want to go on to the next one, John. Okay, so I've got some links, some further information. So the top one there is an article that we put together. A lot of that is talking about some of the work we did with the Nair and Bevan Health Boards. So it does touch on the other charters, but so obviously feel free to click on that. We've got the links then to the other travel charters there. And I believe the next page then, Charlie, is just open up some questions. So, thank you.
Thanks both. That's really interesting. Any questions from the floor? Raise your hand or put it in the chat. Jackie.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. That's really interesting, and it's really nice to sort of see the work that Sustrans does, because I know that it does an enormous amount of work everywhere. As you can see, I'm from Powys, so slightly different issues to other people who are on the call, although I do appreciate that down in Hywel Dda they also have very rural areas. And I'm really interested in the e-bikes because I mean, one of the big issues, probably for Gwent as well, actually, is the topography, hills, and you know, bicycles. If you're used to cycling and you do it on a regular basis, and you belong to clubs, which is usually those are the sort of people who are more likely to cycle to work. So how do we make that behaviour shift? And I'm really interested in the e-bikes, and to see that how is it? I think it was Cardiff who have actually had a loan scheme for electric bikes, so people can test them out beforehand, but also could go through that loan process. How successful has that been? So I wasn't quite clear about how successful that's been. And do you see that as a good way of encouraging people to perhaps change their habits, so that it's not, you know, they're not going to look at the cyclists who've got great big biceps and triceps and things and shorts and all the gear as to be the only people who can get on their bikes. I would just say we did have, you probably know Vincent Goodwin, who is our active travel officer. I mean, he worked for a long time for Sustrans and loves talking about modal shift and behaviour change. So he's fantastic for that. And we did actually purchase some electric bikes for care workers, used it mainly in Llandrindod Wales, where, you know, they could actually get between patients or between clients on bikes, but it didn't go down very well, and they didn't enjoy it, and they found the bikes themselves quite heavy and quite difficult to maneuver. So I think they're sitting in a room somewhere, or they're out on loan to somebody who's doing very well having these electric bikes. But, you know, just to say that it's not that we haven't tried these things, but I still think that there is this kind of modal shift, that perception about cycling. So any thoughts on that would be really welcomed.
Steve, we can't hear you. If your sound's gone, I'll answer. Okay, Steve, we've got technical issues. So yeah, so just just to answer your question, and I think you're absolutely right. So when we work with workplaces, we are incredibly keen, targets maybe the wrong word, we're incredibly keen to not target the people that is currently cycling, or the people that, as you say, have got all the gear. So what we do try and do is we try and aim at the people that are considering cycling, maybe haven't cycled for 10-15 years but want to take it up as a form of transport, and we really try and aim it at trying to make cycling accessible for all, in terms of you don't have to have the gear. You can cycle in normal clothes. You can cycle to a meeting in your normal clothes. You don't have to be arriving, sweating and going to showers and stuff. So we really do kind of try and target that particular audience. So e-bikes have been a huge game changer in that. So in terms of people, especially who certainly may not feel that they're fit enough to be cycling, it does overcome those barriers, especially with topography. Personally, I have to go up a huge hill. Sometimes I enjoy it for the fitness. Other times it just fills me with dread as I come off the train from Cardiff thinking I've got to do this thing. So, so in terms of the e-bikes and the success, we had e-bike loan schemes going out to all organisations in Cardiff. It was successful, although having now launched it again in Swansea Council alone have taken more bike loans than the whole of all the organisations in Cardiff. So it's probably about 3-1, 4-1 in terms of Swansea. So Cardiff was successful, but actually what we thought maybe had been successful until we actually started launching it in Swansea, where there's been a huge uptake. So yeah, but what I would say is, I think Steve alluded to it in his presentation. We don't have the exact figures, but there is a fairly large conversion rate from people loaning these bikes to then going on to using their organisation cycle to work scheme to then purchase a bike. I think the big thing is people just don't know what an e-bike, until you've been on an e-bike, you don't actually know what the benefits are. And I completely agree, some of them are heavy. I mean, obviously that's why you have the assistance. So actually when you're on a bike, the weight should go out of it. But yeah, some people do find them too heavy. But I think nowadays we are so lucky, because what is on the market in terms of lighter e-bikes, foldable e-bikes, there's such a huge variety out there that actually I pretty much say there is something for everyone. And also what we find, for some people, having a 60-mile range on a battery is superb, but most people probably only need 5 miles, 6 miles. That's a lot of the people we try and target are those people. If you're driving 5 miles, you can cycle there in half an hour. And actually that may not take you much longer than being stuck in traffic and by the time you park your car. So we really do emphasize that there's some wonderful e-bikes out, all singing and dancing, but actually not everyone needs that kind of stuff. So, but in terms of success, I would definitely say it has had an impact on the people that have tried them.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to say, I'm a little bit older now, but I spent many years cycling backwards and forwards to work, and it was the best thing I did over a good number of years. I didn't drive at the time, but living here, it's not quite so easy. The roads are slightly different, but e-bikes, I have been on an e-bike, and I think they're fantastic, and they're very good for rural communities as well. So there is some mileage there. So yeah, I'm certainly going to continue to pursue that. But thank you very much for that. Thank you for your presentation.
No problem. I'm just going to add one very thing as well, just because it relates to the Healthy Travel Charter. Obviously, I don't know what your commitments are that you're drafting at the moment, but one of the barriers is not just the cycling, but is organisations allowing staff to cycle in. So it's not just facilities, but also having when it comes to things like dress code, all that kind of stuff, or maybe the allowance for people to take the time, or maybe finish work 15 minutes. I mean, working's so different than it used to be. It used to be kind of so there's that hybrid thing, but it's just taking into consideration that maybe there is a policy within your organisation that allows people, if a meeting is within 5 miles, they are allowed to cycle there, and it might take them 25 minutes longer or 20 minutes longer than maybe taking a pool car. So so it's not just the cycles. It's when it comes to the Healthy Travel Charter, it's the organisations giving that framework around to support people to be able to cycle.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. And I think that's a really important point as well, and something that I'd be very keen to make sure that we can do that, because you've got to make it beneficial to have a bike, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we've got a question from Ruth.
Hello everybody. Hello Jackie. So 3 quick things. I was only going to say one, but two more have come to my head now. So Sue, one of my first beneficiaries, because I did the eMove project before I did my current role, which is working in Newtown in the delightful Kirkhamsfield office for Paris County Council, but employed by Sustrans. So Sue's 72 now. She borrowed an e-bike. It was a bit heavy for her. She's just under 5 foot and very, very slim. And she cycles 1.5 miles up quite a steep bank, Lambeth Road, Jackie, if you know it, out of Newtown, to get home. And she bought an e-bike and she does it. So, you know, that's just an example of somebody who's got a suitable bike that works for her. Then I've just got that ready to write down the other 2 things. I think they've gone from my head now. What were you just talking about, Charlie?
I was previously talking about
oh no, I thought sorry, I thought the third thing, right, the third thing, sorry, is the just one thing on Radio 4 for Michael Mosley this week was activity in the morning, and how, yeah, getting your, and the third thing's coming to me now, enabling your staff to go to work and do flexible, you know, walk or cycle to work is actually really beneficial, because people who do a bit of exercise in the morning, 20 minutes or more, are more likely to cope better with their work in the day, and the problems are smaller. That's what it was basically saying. Third thing, so I worked for Worcestershire doing sustainable transport, Worcestershire Council, 2005 to 2008. Then I went to Telford and Wrekin, and at Telford and Wrekin, not only was I not allowed to homework despite living in Montgomery, 36 miles away, I did car share, I wasn't allowed to cycle to meetings, not even 2 miles, because, and I was a travel officer doing travel plans for workplaces, and I wasn't allowed because they were scared that I might turn up to meetings sweating. Now, I'm a hill runner. I run fell races up to 10 miles. There's no way that a 2 mile bike ride is going to, you know, that was the attitude that I was met with. And if that's the attitude, I mean, it's a long time, it's a while ago, but some employers do need to be encouraged. So yeah, there you go.
Thanks, Ruth. Just on that point, something I was going to raise was, I wonder what organisations might be a bit scared about the insurance implications of encouraging their staff to travel to meetings by bicycle. I don't know. I've just a thought I've had. I know some organisations are very cautious about that kind of thing. Is that something you've come across, Charlie?
Yeah.
Or anyone who can answer that?
Yeah, it's something I've come across. I won't name, but it's quite a big organisation in Wales who, you'd think would know better, but it's definitely, it's a risk aversion and a misunderstanding of the risks involved in cycling. And I just echo what Ruth said about getting around by bike in most places. If you're going a few miles, you don't need to get hot and sweaty. You know, it's just like walking. It's I think this is one of the problems when we focus on showers as well. It's like you only need a shower if you're doing a long commute. You know, if you're going from meeting to meeting, I think we need to be careful, and we need to make sure that we normalise cycling as just as an easy way of getting around for those short journeys. So I think sometimes the emphasis on showers and having someone a locker and everything, sort of like, it portrays, I think it's like, right, it's a very physical act, you know, but it's not. It's much easier than running, for example.
Yeah.
Or even walking.
Thanks, Gwenda. Someone's put in the chat, e-trikes would negate some of the weight issue. I recently bought a kit to convert my current hybrid bike, very little extra weight. Interesting. I don't know if you have guidance, Charlie, on the website or anything about the reassurance around insurance, or is there a way that we can communicate the real risk factors or not of that challenge?
As far as I'm aware, I mean, we don't have. So when we do our bike loan scheme, we put the emphasis on, because obviously we loan as part of the health travel. So, you know, we are currently loaning bikes to employees of organisations, but we class it as a direct loan between ourselves and the employee. So it's not, we're not asking the organisation as a whole to sign off. And obviously, as part of that loan agreement, a bit like we do with eMove, we do say that the injury is, the risk is on the individual themselves. So whilst we insure the bike, as long as it's locked up properly, we don't insure the individual. But, and I'm sure Gwenda could probably answer more, there is relatively inexpensive people are going to do it. You can buy insurance for bikes now, and it may be that one organisation, I don't know, but either looks to contribute to that, or people can just buy their own insurance for the year. It's not a huge amount, and maybe that is it can overcome the barrier that yes, you can cycle if you have your own insurance, but I don't think everyone, necessarily needs that. It's just there is a degree of responsibility. Although it is interesting, I know a lot of organisations, if you're going to use your own car for work purposes, you do need to provide, evidence that your insurance covers business insurance. So, but that may be a factor. But I couldn't give you an example of an individual organisation personally. There's a barrier.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, again, it's like you don't need insurance. The reason you need insurance to drive a car is because of the risk it places on other people. You don't need that same insurance. But it is something, again, that employers, I'll see, we've probably got something on our website that will, can help with that.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that's everything for the time being. I'll just play this video from Gwenda's colleague. Hopefully it all will work. And then we can wrap up with some final questions.
My name is Mo Haloom, and I am the Workplaces Project Manager here at Cycling UK. And today I'll be sharing a little bit about the Cycle Friendly Employer Accreditation and also providing a case study on Natural Resources Wales. So to begin with, working here at Cycling UK, my challenge is to make better workplaces by bike. Now, this is a Department for Transport National Travel Survey. And did you know of all the journeys taken in the UK each year, only 2% are cycled? Now, the majority of that cycling will probably be happening within the cities, which makes even a smaller percentage of that those who commute into work. So this is where I'm going to challenge you and say, together we can make a better world by bike. So just a bit of background about the Cycle Friendly Employer Accreditation. We at Cycling UK are part of a European consortium of organisations that promote cycling around Europe. So the Cycle Friendly Employer Accreditation was created by the ECF, and the accreditation that we offer is the same accreditation that you would receive should you be in any of those highlighted countries. Now, us here at Cycling UK, we are the only organisation that offer the CFE accreditation here in the UK. You will not be able to get it from anybody else. And the awards you can achieve from it, as you can see, are gold, silver and bronze. Now, here is a small sample of accredited organisations that we have. As you can see, it's not just cycling related organisations that can go for it, but those in the public or private sector, NHS, trust, education sector, non-profits, and so on. The accreditation is for anybody. And how simple is it? Well, it's a three-step process, so it's quite easy to get the accreditation. So firstly, you fill in the free self-assessment online. As you can see, the link is at the bottom of the screen, and I believe in the next slide as well, I'll have a short link to it, which will be circulated around to you all after this meeting. From that self-assessment, we'll be able to report back to you what your indicative score would be, and then we'll have a consultation meeting. This would be where we would have a look at your score, discuss areas that you can improve in, and also just provide a bit more information about the CFE accreditation. And following that, we'll be able to provide you a quote for the accreditation, and it's a bespoke quote based on your organisation. From there, if you decide to proceed to procurement, we'll move on to the auditing and reporting. Now, the audit is a remote audit, which will be completed by yourself. And this is where we now, following the self-assessment, we actually ask for physical evidence. So it'd be the any photographs of bike lockers, of changing rooms, any tools that you might have, and so on. Any digital digital documentation that you may have, that will be used as evidence to show that you're a cycle-friendly employer. That audit will then come back through to us, and we will produce a report on that. So we will analyze all of the results of your audit and produce a report on that. Following that, we will then score your report and then award you with either gold, silver, or bronze. That report will then be distributed to you, and you will be recognized as a cycle-friendly employer, and you'll receive a load of marketing tools, whether that be digital or physical or both, to promote that you're a cycle-friendly employer. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on. And as you can see, here is the cycle-friendly employer self-assessment. So if you receive a digital version of this, you can just click on that link and that will take you straight to our self-assessment page. If not, the link was on the previous slide and you can just go to that link from there. Now, the framework that you'll be measured on is on 6 categories. And in order to become accredited, you must achieve a minimum of bronze in 1 through to 4, 5 and 6, depend on your organisation. And I'll quickly just go through this wheel just to explain each one. So the first one is information, communication and incentives. So what information are you providing and what incentives are you providing to your employees to cycle to work? Moving on to the second one, on coordination and organisation. Have you done a survey? What plans and objectives have you got to increase cycling to work at your workplace? Moving on to 3 and 4, this now comes on to the physical elements. So what tools do you have in place? Should your employees have a puncture on the way to work? When they get to work, are there any tools that they can use to repair that puncture? Are there any inner tubes that they can have to replace in case the inner tube is damaged? Or is there a pump so they can at least pump up their tyres? And so on, and facilities. So yeah, how many cycle storage facilities do you have? Do you have a changing room? Do you have a drying room? Any lockers and so on? What do you have so that cyclists or those who cycle actually can feel accommodated for when they cycle in? Now 5 and 6, as I said, are dependent on the business, but category 5 focuses on parking management. So how easy is it to access cycle parking? Do you have car parking spaces that you've transformed into cycle parking spaces? And finally, category 6, customer traffic. What if you have any visitors or customers who come to your site? Is there any information for them online or signs around the building to let them know that they can come to your workplace or to your office and they can cycle there rather than having to drive? So they'll be accommodated to cycle in. Now, I'm not going to go too deeply on this one, but this is essentially what is a minimum required for bronze. So each one of these ones, you can see each the first 4 categories. But if you do all of these, you will achieve a minimum of bronze in the CFE accreditation, which shows you how easy it actually is. If you have any questions about that, my email will be on the last slide. So you can basically just drop me an email and set up a meeting, or you can just ask questions about those specific ones if you should do so. Now, why should you become accredited? Well, here we have a list of strategical and tactical elements as to why you should become accredited. So starting on the left, by getting your staff to cycle in, I think it's common sense. They're going to be improving their health, their fitness will be better, and also study has shown that your staff will be having fewer sick days because they're not getting ill as much due to their fitness and health. Your organisation will also be decreasing its carbon levels and aiming to meet net zero. Gosh, that was a tricky one to say. Basically, as an organisation, you are playing your part through getting this accreditation to say we don't want our employees to be driving in or using car as a mode of transport. Actually, we want them to be using a sustainable mode of transport to come in, and that is by bike. So you're, as an organization, because they represent you, they won't be producing as much emissions on their commute in. Also, staff's productivity will be increased. Now, if you're going to be driving into work, you know that you're going to get stuck into traffic, and you're not going to feel great. You're going to get into work, you may be a little bit late, but because you've had a bit of a stressful drive in, it's not going to feel great once you start, and you might start the day a little bit slower. If you cycle in, you've been able to skip through all of that traffic, you've cycled in, you've done your morning exercise, you're going to feel great. Let's get cracking, let's start the day at work. And finally, the connected culture and values and attract and retain talent. If your employer is providing you with the information, infrastructure and incentives to cycle to work, if you've got great employee benefits that are cycling related, then your staff are going to feel appreciated. Staff well-being is going to be high. Staff turnover will be low, and you won't be having to spend a lot of money on attracting and retaining talent. Moving over to the tactical side, so I've already said you get the consulting, learning and development report. So within that report, there'll be advice on what you can do should you wish to act on it, about how you can improve your cycle-friendly employerness. So what can you do to improve facilities? What can you do to improve incentives and so on? And that will be detailed inside the report should you wish to make any improvements when you come up for re-accreditation in 3 years' time. You'll also be part of our Cycling UK workplaces, newsletters and events, so that as an organisation you can partake in any events that we will be advertising here at Cycling UK, and that includes Bike Week. We'll also be promoting Cycle to Work Day, Net Zero Week and so on that your organisation can partake in. Your brand and logo will be on our website as one of our accredited organisations, and you'll be promoting to the rest of the UK that you are a cycle-friendly employer, but also you have our digital marketing tools which you can use to promote that you're a cycle-friendly employer yourself to other organisations and prospective employees. And finally, ongoing support. So the Workplaces Department here at Cycling UK, we're here 5 days a week, and if you have any questions, we'll be here to support you with that. So very quickly, I'm just going to touch on a case study, which is Natural Resources Wales. So NRW, they have 5 sites accredited, and that includes the 5 sites in Cardiff, Abergavenny, Llandarcy. Now, the one that I'm going to focus on is Llandovery because they got gold accreditation there. So this site, they had great measures and incentives to encourage cycling to work. They provided staff, as you can see in that top left photo, with a whole toolkit that included a pump, any bike chain, oil, tools, Allen keys, and so on, tyre levers, to basically support staff if they had any mechanical issues when they got to work. But also for any visitors that are coming along, they also had access to that. On the right, you can see they had great changing space. So they had a larger toilet, which they used there as a changing space. But also in another picture, which I haven't got attached to here, they also had a great drying facilities and a space where those who cycled in could store their wet clothes if it was a rainy day. And also they did a doctor bike session. So they had somebody come in and basically any members of staff who cycled in that day could have their bike checked over by a doctor bike mechanic. So that is that. So as I said, my name is Mo and I'm from Cycling UK. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop me a line. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thanks very much there to Mo, who couldn't be with us today in person. But if anyone has got any questions about that accreditation scheme, understand that Gwenda is willing to field them to the best of her ability. Otherwise, I will be circulating those slides and you can get in touch with Mo via his email address on there. But I can also just open this up to the general discussion at this point, because we've got about 15 minutes left. Richard, I think, is typing something, but has anyone else got a question about the accreditation or anything really? Or any thoughts? Anyone?
Oh yeah, I'll respond to Richard's. Yeah, it is a sales pitch, but as with anything, you know, we're a charity as well as membership organisation, and this is something that is provided UK wide. All charities get paid, you know, they need to get paid in different ways for what they do, so it's no different to any other third sector. We think it's a really positive thing. I think NRW there is one, and I think what I like about that is that NRW have got a site across Wales in different locations, so it's not just about the cities, and it's about the flexibility of it. Swansea University were our first gold accredited there. Jane Cornelius, who some of you might know, was really inspiring. And what she said about it, it's not just, you know, the accreditation is one thing, but it gets everyone thinking about, right, what can we do within the workplace to support people to cycle, and you know, it's very, very inspiring. Jane's a great person as well to talk to about that. So yeah, it's we've recently had Principality sign up. As a business, you know, they see the value of becoming accredited, because it gives a really good message out to people. It's like, yeah, we're serious about enabling our employees to get to work in the way that best suits them. So
thanks, Glenda. I think there's some other questions being typed in at the moment. Yeah, I was just kind of, one of the challenges that we've got in West Wales in particular is around the rurality of everything. Is there a particular thing in the accreditation that takes account of that? Because obviously it's going to be a bigger challenge with some of the aspects.
As I said, yeah, so I don't know in particular, but it will be location specific, and it's what that, you know, site can do for those people. Right. So yeah, it's, I said the fact that Llandovery, you know, you can't, you know, Llandovery is pretty rural, isn't it? So there must be, I can ask Mo that and see if he's got anything else to add on that, because
that's okay.
I'm not sure.
Thanks. Richard, did you want to ask something else?
Just to say, really, that was a bit tongue-in-cheek, the comment, and I have actually forwarded the link to the scheme to our sustainable travel coordinator, because I reckon at the university we should achieve at least bronze.
Which university are you?
Central Lancashire, up north.
Oh, okay. Oh, we've got people from England.
A long way away. Yeah, I actually live just on the border, just in Cheshire, so I'm not far from Wrexham and that. Yeah, I mean, just a general comment, and it's been great seeing the work that's been done. But one thing that always, and I know Charlie's mentioned this already a little bit, about the message that you give to people when you're encouraging them to cycle. And I think there's a real danger. We saw it in Alex's presentation, all the showers and things. Now that's great, have those, but they're quite expensive to install. And I always feel when I see stuff like that, you're saying cycling's horrible, hot, sweaty, dangerous. You need to wear helmets and all the kit and that. And I just think that's such the wrong message. I mean, I've been very lucky to travel across Europe for work, looking at different cycling schemes and things, and you just see people in lots of cities in Europe going to work in their office clothes. In fact, I rarely see anybody in Lycra going to the office. You know, and in some places you don't even see a cycle helmet. You know, it's that just presents a whole different, like, this is just a normal way to travel to work.
Totally agree with you. Yeah, totally agree with you, Richard. And I think it's a dilemma, because what comes to mind, you know, people think we must have showers, and it's just like, you know, I cycle 2 miles to work in Cardiff. It's flat. I don't need a shower. You know, I used to work in Newport, and I'd sometimes cycles there, and then that's you know, because that's you know, slightly longer. But again, if I go slowly, I can make do with some, you know, a quick wipe and stuff like that. It's not. Yeah, I think that's really, really important that we don't make it something other than, you know, you don't dress in special clothes to jump in your car. and jumping on a bike is no different at all.
So especially if you've got e-bikes. I mean, you barely do any work at
Yeah.
all if you've got an e-bike.
Oh, I don't know, my friend. If you've got a legal e-bike, you're still pedaling. I think e-bikes are going to be part of the big solution to this for so many people.
Yeah.
You're on
Jackie,
mute.
Jackie, did you have a question?
That's okay. I can lip read, so I did see what you were saying. Yes, it might be a bit flippant, but one of my favourite programmes is Borgen. If any of you have ever seen Borgen, and she was Prime Minister and riding on her bike to work, which I thought was very impressive. So I think that's probably the question I'm going to ask actually with this accreditation, because I think it came up in this one where you actually need to consider as well whether you've got customers coming in. And I don't suppose that the local health boards and probably the local authority that I'm in well, we should do in the local authority. We don't necessarily consider our customers as much as we should. So I was really interested in that, to find out what it is that your expectations are that you put in place, because I think we heard earlier that from Hywel Dda that some of the facilities for staff cyclists isn't available to the public, and I would have thought that actually that would have been really useful, and also PR around that. Actually. How do you? I'm not saying Powys will go for an accreditation, because it's bad enough trying to persuade them to do the healthy charter at the moment. So, but how do you how do you use PR to actually show people that members of staff or people working in the public sector are actually taking advantage of this, and it provides a lot of advantages for them? Ruth was saying earlier, wasn't she, that if you cycle to work, you're much better when you get to work. Your brain's working better, your body's more relaxed, all those sort of things. So you're anti-stressing yourself before you get to work, whereas if you get in your car, totally different feeling. So how do we share that? How do we spread that good news story?
I think that's really, I'll just go back before I forget. If you're interested, you do the self-assessment. Cycle Friendly Employees got a self-assessment thing, and that's quite a good tool because it shows you where, because someone's done it recently. Again, another big organisation in Wales, and they're coming out gold and so they should. They've got a new building and stuff like that. But it's a really useful sort of like, just look at what we can do. I think it was Steve and Charlie were talking case studies. I think case studies are brilliant, and other people inspire other people. So if you've got internally your intranet and you can tell, get people to tell their stories about how they get to work. It just there's I know someone who works for a very big organisation full of lots of blokes who go riding their bikes at weekends. She bought an e-bike to go to work, and she turned up at work on her e-bike, and one of these blokes said, "Oh, I hadn't even considered cycling to work." So there's just people, you've got people within your organisation who are the champions. So it's about helping through your internal comms and stuff, I think, to help bring that story out. And again, there's lots of stuff on our website about what you can do, just in terms of, we're in the process of compiling a list because someone's asked, what are the top tips you give for people? I think they're having pool bikes, and it's just like, letting people know, how to do an M check, signposting them to sort of like cycle training. And when I say cycle training, it's the National Standards Bikeability. It's really good for giving you confidence on the roads and stuff like, and local authorities. So years ago, I did a project bringing national standards to work. So all local authorities in Wales are trained up. They have different capacity, but there will be people, the road safety teams within the local authority will have awareness of national standard cycle training. And some of them offer it to adults as a bit of a confidence booster. I know Cardiff do that. I'm not sure of others, but it's a really good one. Just go out and teach you how to do a roundabout or a junction or stuff like that. It's I think that is fab. Normal stories. Forget the showers and the high vis. They're useful things to have. I'm not saying that, but it's just, to me, it's normal stories. And Steve and Charlie might have some other thoughts there.
I do know somebody who used to cycle to work in Powys. He doesn't work there any longer, and he used to use the chairman's shower. I don't know how you manage that one, but
yeah.
I think that shower's gone now. I don't think it's even there anymore.
And again, visitors don't need shower, but if as
No.
a visitor, it's I want to know, it's just like, oh, if I turn up, is there somewhere I can park my bike, you know, that's safe? That's what I want to know. If you're giving directions, I was at a meeting in Swansea and someone said, oh, it's junction whatever off the M4, and it's just like, it's not a lot of good for me, you know. I'm cycling up from the train, so just thinking about, and all those little things give positive messages. It's like, we're thinking about how people get here, we're not assuming it's by car. I think a lot of that sort of stuff's really good.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Charlie, do you want to chip in there? Charlie?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yes, and just one thing I was going to mention, and it kind of revolves around this, and I think, Amy, you may have asked us in an email, which we didn't apologize. There are, it's something to bear in mind for your organisations, the decision-making process of how you travel. And actually, you know, I know we've talked about if you're going to a meeting and it's 2 miles away, but it's not having the car as a first option. So actually, I know certain organisations have, they'll probably know, you know, they're called travel decision trees or whatever. So actually, you should start at a certain point and actually, can you walk there? Can you cycle there? Okay, if confident. You can't tell everyone just to cycle. But actually, the car should not be the top of the tree. And this is the thing. And actually, if you're going to hire a pool car from your organisation, you know, it needs to be justified. Basically, why are you hiring this pool car? And that's not to say you have to make everyone cycle, because that's not realistic. And I think you need to be, you know, some people are not confident, and you can't make everyone cycle. But there are alternatives. You know, you can promote the train, you can promote the bus, and so it's just having that kind of mechanism in your organisation to really make not the car the default of and that's quite hard when you've got pool cars available, because people are buying new shiny electric vehicles, which are great, but it still shouldn't necessarily be the default method of going to a meeting. It may be the meeting is 6 miles away. It's not practical to get there another way. Absolutely, fair enough. But just having that process to go through to actually say, well, you know, let's consider as an organisation promoting different ways of getting there before we jump in the car just to kind of do these short journeys.
Yeah, that's a very good point, having that decision tree for business travel. And I think that's something that the Charter Group want to work on collectively. So if anyone has got an example they can share with us, that'd be really super helpful.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Sustrans the same, Cycling UK, but you know, we have to justify using a car. So we switch it. It's like, you know, it's a bit like the hierarchy of transport. You know, we've got the national transport, the Llywelyn Newydd transport strategy, and it's just like it's the same sort of hierarchy. It's just like, right, is this possible? If not, you know, and you take things like time and stuff like that into account as well. But it just switches that thinking, doesn't it? It's
Yeah. One question that I had from one of the Healthy Travel Charter meetings, I said I would pass on with 3 minutes to go, was just this idea. So there's a lot of talk around park and ride, but is there anything around taking the bike with a car sort of situation? A bit like we were saying, it was brought up before. So that anxiety, if you've only come by bike, you've got to dash off somewhere, or as is the case in some of the organisations that we're working with on the charter, is that they come into work, but then there are multiple sites that they might have to visit on one day. And so it might be be reasonable that they cycle in, but then it's going to be far too tiring to go back and forth between different sites. So yeah, we were just wondering about, is anybody experimenting with foldable bikes, putting into a pool car, or any kind of combination of things, which is more like park and bike, or a ride and pool car, or something like that. Yeah.
I was talking, I can't remember where I was somewhere, and someone, she parks and rides part of the way into work because she can't do the whole journey. I think she lives in the valleys and I can't. So there are people making those personal choices. But I think, yeah, employers are like pool cars and pool bikes combinations. I think folding bikes, again, as I said, it's are a big part of it. I think employers need to be creative. And I'm sure there are examples. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but yeah, it's about being creative with what you do. We've got a stack of Bromptons in our office. I think, you know, sure, you know, it's the same. It's like we've got work Bromptons that can be hired out and stuff like, not hired, you know, borrowed and stuff like that too. So you can make those, you know, train and folding bikes are often a good option.
Yeah, Ruth, do you have a comment?
Hello. Yeah, the eMove scheme, I asked if some of the bikes could be sold so that you could buy fold-ups, not for at work purposes, but for the sake of people who, because the money for eMove, as you probably all know, was one for more deprived areas, which is why Newtown got part of the money. And those more deprived areas have lots of properties where you have nowhere to store a bike. So and I also wanted some of them sold so you can have e-trikes as well, because not everybody can ride a bike, but they can ride a trike. Anyway, one bike was sold and some fold-up ones were used, and of course they can use them at home, then take them upstairs because they're quite light, or put them in their hallway, or even just put them in their shed if their shed's not got space for an actual bike. But yeah, the benefit of that is then if they go to work and they're worried, because I had one person who worked in a cafe and had no space to put a bike, but he could put a fold-up bike, and he's since bought one. His parents bought him one. So yeah, and they are really useful, and you can get quite good, better ones now. Okay,
brilliant. Thanks, Ruth. That brings us perfectly to time. So unless anyone else has a burgeoning question, speak now, forever hold your peace, because it'll be good to wrap up on time. And we've got a recording, so we'll circulate this to everybody who couldn't make it. And obviously, if anyone has shown slides today, we can circulate those with permission, and you can get everybody's email addresses to follow up with questions. But thank you so much to Charlie and Steve from Sustrans, Mo for doing his presentation remotely, and Gwenda for trying to field some questions, and to Rianne and Alex for presenting at the beginning from Hywel Dda. And everyone for attending and asking some really pertinent questions. Hopefully this has been really useful and will move the agenda forward. And think as an organisation is around at least until next July, if you would benefit from us hosting another conversation like this as you kind of progress into next year, we're more than happy to do so. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Amy.
Thanks, Al.
Bye.